I am excited to be here today because of the topics that we have and the guests that we have. A little later on, we have a lady named Jamie Cook from the Washington, D.C. area. And folks, when you hear her incredible story, you're going to know that anyone who puts their mind to it can become a real estate investor. She is extremely successful, but she had to overcome incredible odds to get there. I can't wait for you to hear her story, and that's coming up in just a few minutes. And then we're going to hear from Guy Jimenez. This is a gentleman that set his sights high, literally. He wanted to be a helicopter pilot, couldn't make the military because his vision wasn't perfect, but he kept on working to achieve that goal and ultimately achieved his dream and worked as a helicopter pilot in the police force in Dallas, Texas. And even though he had achieved his dream job, his priorities changed as he had children, and you'll hear his story. And even if you're in a job that you love and you want something more or you need something different, there's an opportunity for you investing in real estate. And I want you to hear both of these stories today. They are compelling. They're interesting. I kept both guests on a little longer than we had originally planned because I just couldn't get enough of what they had to say. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you in just a few moments.
I have on the phone with me Guy Jimenez from Austin, Texas. He was a police officer in Dallas for many years and now a real estate investor in Austin. Guy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, Roger.
We met, like I've met several of my guests, we met through contacts on Facebook, and I'm so glad that you reached out to me, and you've been doing some interesting things, but I always like to begin by talking about what we wanted to be when we grew up and a little bit of your backstory and how you ended up being in real estate investing. So when you were a kid, did you want to be a cop when you grew up?
Not so much a police officer. I wanted to be, from a young age, I wanted to be a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really, and unfortunately, I was unable to because I didn't have perfect vision. I couldn't do it through the military. So I had to look at a civilian route, and I did have interest in law enforcement and actually got started in that at an early age as well. I think I was 19 when I first started as a reserve officer down at the coast here in Texas. And we did an air show, security at an air show, and I got to go up in a helicopter, and it was the most exciting thing. I thought, this is what I'd like to do. And so I had to find a route, as we often do. If we want something bad enough, we're going to find a way to make it happen. And so that's what I did, is found that, most likely the path for me would be through law enforcement, which I did enjoy. But I had to go to a bigger department that actually had an air unit.
Yeah, you said something so important, and I want to just repeat that. If you want to do something bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. Is that what you said?
It's always the way, no matter what it is in life, whether it's, you're finding a wife, you're finding a job, you're finding your passion. It's always, it's persistence. You just can't, there's setbacks for everybody. We all have them. Everybody has. But you just have to push through those and say, you get days when you're down and you go, man, this is just driving me nuts. But next day you got to get up and you got to go for it.
There you go. So you were a police officer and you achieved your dream. You were a helicopter pilot for a police department, and so you had it all.
Well, I did. I mean, it's certainly as far as law enforcement positions go, and I'd worked for several departments outside of the one in Dallas, but it's certainly one of the best jobs you can have in law enforcement. It was the most interesting. It was the most appealing to me. We've got to do all kind of things, from search and rescue to presidential escorts to, obviously any kind of police activity there is. And then in larger cities, you kind of see it all, from all the chases and so forth. But ultimately, as much as I enjoyed it, and I still enjoy doing some flying even today. But ultimately what happened is, I recognized that shortly after we had adopted our son, we couldn't get pregnant, so we adopted a newborn, and I realized I don't have control of my time. And the older I got, the more I wanted to to be the captain of my ship and say, well, I'm going on vacation for the next few weeks, and I don't have to ask anybody. I couldn't do that when I worked in a law enforcement field. Certainly at the Air Wing in Dallas, we only had 12 pilots. So if I wanted to take off and there just wasn't enough pilots, well, guess what? There were times where I actually paid another pilot to come in and take my shift, and I paid them extra because I wanted to make sure that I had time to go do what I wanted to do. And so what I learned real quickly, Roger, is that was never going to change. I was always going to be at someone else's beck and call, and I didn't see that as a long-term thing for me. And as much as I hated to give up the flying end of it, it was something I had to do to get to where I wanted to be, which was have control over my time.
Okay, that's an interesting take on it. You had the job that you loved and you'd worked for, but still there was, our goals have a way of changing and our priorities in life as we go through. So
yes, sir, especially when you have a child.
Now, did you make a sudden jump, or did you start investing in real estate and then quit your job? How did the transition occur?
It was kind of a circle, if you will. I left there. I actually got hired by another department and moved to Colorado at that point. I won't go too much into that. But what we realized, being from Texas and both of my wife and I growing up on the coast, is we got to Texas and Colorado and lived in the mountains. And I did law enforcement there because I was told they were going to buy a helicopter for the area out there for that county. Well, that never came to fruition. That was a pipe dream for them. And what we realized living out in the mountains there is my wife didn't like snow. Well, that's probably not, which is real difficult when you've got the snow on the ground about 9 months out of the year. So
don't live in Colorado if you don't like snow.
No, not in the mountains anyway. So we moved back to Texas, but I knew when I moved back, I said, well, this is it. I'm going to find a job, because the only thing I knew since I was 19 years old, 20 years old at that point, was I knew law enforcement. So I knew I needed to get a job in that to get back to Texas, which I did, but I also knew that it was not my end point. That was just a jumping point for me to get back to Texas and then figure out what I was going to do. And so that's what I did. I got hired here at it was actually a much smaller department, and immediately started figuring out what is my next path, because I'd been in that for 17 years. I just knew that I had to have control of my time, and I wanted to be able to see my son grow up and spend as much time as I could with my wife. They always say, the old saying is, when's the best time to tell your wife you love her? Well, right before your neighbor does. Okay. So I wanted to make sure, that I was there for my wife when she needed me through her ups and downs and so forth as well. But I got back to Texas, and then I really just sat down with books and magazines and just read and researched and said, what can I do with my limited expertise, which is really in one field, which is law enforcement. Well, there's not a lot of areas outside of there unless you do security or something. So I decided on real estate in 1998, started on my license. Got that at late 98, got that, I think it was licensed in late 98 or early 99. And then in 99, I worked law enforcement in the evenings and a night shift, and I did real estate during the day, and I did that for 1 full year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Guy Jimenez is a man who knows what he needs, who knows what he wants, and with a singular focus, he goes after it. This is a story about a transition from law enforcement to real estate, but this could be anything. And we can learn from this gentleman, and we're going to have him back to tell more of his story right after this. And we are back. This is Roger Blankenship, and the show is Flipping America. I have on the phone with me Guy Jimenez from Austin, Texas, and he's been telling us a fascinating story of his transition from a life in law enforcement, which was kind of his dream job, into real estate because he knew he needed more time with his family and with his child. And we're about now, for you to become a realtor in your story. Let's move through the realtor and get into real estate investing, because I have so many questions about the kind of investing that you do and what you're doing now. But please let us hear the rest of the story.
Well, sure, Roger. Thanks. I just, as I said, in 1999, I had to make that transition. It was a very difficult year because I was working essentially 18 to 20 hours a day. I was living on about 4 hours sleep a night because I would get off my evening shift in police work. I would go home, I would shower, eat a little bit, and in between, say, about 12 and 3 in the morning, I would research, I would study, I would read, and I'd go to bed. I'd get up the next day, and I'd go into the office in real estate and start doing real estate between 8 in the morning and about 4:30 or so in the evening, and then go to my police job. And so I did that for a year, and it really took a toll on me physically. And I knew at the end of 99, I had to make a decision whether I was going to make that jump or not. It was difficult because my wife was working part-time. We had a son, so forth, so in private school, sort of a daycare stuff. So, but ultimately I had to decide I was going to quit one of those. I had to do one or the other, and I chose real estate, jumped into real estate full-time, and quite frankly, we just never looked back since.
Okay. And so you were a realtor. You were selling real estate, right?
Yes, sir. I did that for the first year, and then in 2000, I picked up my first foreclosure and said, well, this is really the path I need to be on because it's so much more money involved in it. And that's where really in 2000 is when my investing began, and I started really, really pushing hard on the investing side of things.
Okay. So you bought a foreclosure. I understand some things about how the foreclosures happen in Texas, but please enlighten our listeners. When you want to buy a foreclosure in Texas, what do you do?
Well, this one was actually straight off of the MLS. This was a foreclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird deal for me, but it popped up, and you know, back then there wasn't near the number of investors out there and so forth like there are now. But anyway, I picked that one up. We rehabbed it. We actually lived in it for a short time, and then turned it and went on to the next deal. And in our 37 years of marriage, we've moved, Roger, either 16 or 17 times. Now, that'll wear thin on a woman, I can tell you. You know, for me, it didn't bother me, but you know, I kept seeing my end goal because we would stay in it a couple years and then move and cash out on it and so forth. And additionally, I was buying other properties as well. But so that first one was just a traditional MLS type purchase. We didn't make a lot of money on it, but we got a lot of experience on it.
Well, now you fast forward to 2017, you've done hundreds and hundreds of transactions, and you've done the traditional purchases, you've done creative financing, and you're also buying in other cities outside of Austin. You're doing some in San Antonio and Corpus Christi and different places around where you have friends and associates. Tell us a little bit about how you branched out into other areas and why, and how you're doing it.
Sure.
And we're going to run out of time in this segment in about 3 minutes, but we'll go into the next segment if you have time.
Simply, let me kind of narrow it down real quickly here, is I learned real quickly that, you know, it's not good to be beholden to one area because Austin became very, very expensive very, very quickly. And I would run out of money, my personal money, quickly if I was just working in Austin. And so what I did is I decided to branch out, and I kind of started doing a lot of networking with folks in other towns through personal phone calls, through personal meetings with them, and going to meetup groups in those towns and so forth to meet other investors so that I could build those relationships. And that's something we probably want to touch on in the next segment, is the importance of relationships, because it made all the difference in the world for me.
Yeah, and we will do that. We still have a few minutes.
Okay.
So
basically what I did is I reached out. I obviously did marketing through Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth, had people contact me. I put together a really kind of a basic investor partnering program where I work with newer investors in each of those areas They do the marketing. They bring me the deals. I run everything through my virtual assistant. I get all the deals shot to me, and I evaluate them, and then we make deals. If we make deals on them, then we share in the profits. And so it's good for them, and it's good for me, and it helps me expand out and diversify some of my risk because I can buy less expensive properties in those areas.
So if you're living in Austin, how do you oversee the renovation on the property in Corpus Christi?
Well, that was one of the other important things is that I have a contractor that's been with me now for about 15 years, and he's a traveling contractor. In fact, he won't work for anyone else. And so he would go to Corpus. He's going all over for me, San Antonio, Corpus. He's done Houston, Galveston area for me. I've done a lot of them here in Austin area. So, you know, we've gotten to have a great relationship. He knows what my expectations are. He doesn't cut corners, so I don't have to be there. He's very, very well versed in the rehab business. It's all he's done for 40 some odd years. So it makes it really easy for me. Really easy.
Yeah. I tell you, it's so important to have a good contractor. And if I drew a chart of my business success in this business and another chart that had the quality of my contractors, they would be directly linked. The better your contractor, the better your business is going to go. And when you have a poor contractor or a crooked contractor, then you're going to have problems. Well, we are listening to Guy Jimenez from Austin, Texas, and I am Roger Blankenship, the host. The show is called Flipping America. We're talking about you, your life, your money, your business, and opportunities for investing in real estate. When we get back from the next break, I'm going to talk with Guy a little bit about the education programs that he's doing and the importance of building that relational capital and not only making friends, but developing business relationships in other cities that's given him the ability to expand his business. And we'll be right back after this. We are back. This is Flipping America. We have Guy Jimenez on the phone, and we're talking about remote flipping. That's what I call it anyway. And Guy is flipping houses all over Texas, and we've already established he has a contractor that travels, but you have other people on the ground finding deals for you, and you also probably have relationships with realtors in those communities that sell the houses for you. Talk to us a little bit about these relationships and how you develop them and what you do for your people on the ground.
Yeah. Basically what I did is I did some marketing on, did ad space and so forth on Facebook. I'd already built a pretty large database. Right now I'm on Facebook. At least I'm nearing 5,000 people there. And then built the relationship by providing some value to investors across the state. Mainly things dealing with contracts and how to solve certain issues, just doing a value add for them so that they got to know my name, knew who I was. And then when I put out there about my investor partnering program, which is to simply put, I provide I told them I would provide this. I'll provide you a dedicated phone number for you for each investor in each of these towns. That way, when they do their marketing, they put their number on the marketing piece. It drives it through my virtual assistant, but each call is recorded when it comes in, so I know which investor that particular deal came from, that particular call came from, and if we're able to put up get a deal out of it, make a deal out of the call, then I will do everything. I'll do the negotiations. Of course, I'll do all the contract administration, deal with every aspect of it. All they have to do is the marketing. Well, if there's one thing that new investors don't have, it's experience, right? So they were very happy to, all they had to do was go spend a few $100s a month to do some marketing. And, it could be door knocking, it could be whatever, but whatever their marketing is, they would use their number so that I know what deal belongs to what investor. And then I would handle everything. I do all the funding and everything else because I built all the relationships with my private lenders. And essentially that's what we did. And so I started picking up people in other towns that said, man, I want to do this because I can't just jump in with both feet because I don't know what I'm doing yet. I can't even complete a contract. So I need someone with experience and knowledge and skills in the business, and I don't have money. Well, the whole most important thing about business, when somebody tells me, Roger, well, I don't have any money, I said, well, no, what you're telling me is you don't have relationships. Well, I don't have any experience. No, what you're telling me is you don't have relationships. Well, I don't have any time. No, what you're telling me is you don't have any relationships, because everything you need in business can be obtained through the right relationships. It's exactly what I've done. I mean, I buy most of my houses sitting in my office at home. I don't have to look at them. I've got somebody to go out there. They'll take the pictures and get everything done for me, send them to me, and then I'll make the evaluation of the property, do the negotiations, and we'll get it under contract, and I'll either wholesale it or I'll do a minor rehab to it and retail it, which is my preferred method. But that's all I did is I simply initially provided enough information that was of value to investors out there, especially newer investors, and then I gave them an avenue to be able to become part of the industry without a huge buy-in. The guru buy-in, as we call it, with the $50,000 or $40,000 up front. Right. They don't have it, and they want to make sure they can take care of their families, so they can't put $40,000 or $50,000 down. So This gave them a buy-in, literally for a few $100s a month, whatever they can spend on marketing.
That's brilliant. That's a great plan, and you're providing opportunity for other people while making money at the same time. And regular listeners to my show know that I occasionally get on a rant about the so-called gurus out there that charge you basically the price of a small rental house in order for you to learn how to flip a house. And even though some of the information is good, it should not cost you $50,000 to learn how to flip a house. It just shouldn't cost that. There are a lot of moving parts, and everyone needs a mentor. Everyone needs a partner, and well, we are right in agreement with that. So what's in the future for Guy Jimenez? Where are your goals take you next?
Well, right now it's things are going well. I do want to kind of get into some multifamily and some what I call light commercial, some small commercial things. I don't do any ground up development. It's just not in my wheelhouse. But this year I'm putting a lot of money, especially the last 6 months of this year. My wife and I kind of get away every 6 weeks or so, and we'll go for 4 or 5 days to the beach, which is what we enjoy doing. And we'll talk about our goals and objectives, both short-term and long-term. And long-term for me would be 3 years. I mean, we don't go 5 and 10 years. I look at 3 years as very long-term. We're normally anywhere from 6 months to 24 months is our time frame for looking at things. And we just decided, I've been comfortable for too long, and it's time to take it up to the next level, to scale up. And in order to do that, we've got to put a lot more money into our marketing. So we're doing a lot more on the marketing end of it, not so much in direct mail, but putting a lot more into the online marketing, because I've got investors around the state who are doing the offline for me and using their money. So that's kind of what our objective is to kind of get scale up on the business again this year, and in 2018 really hit it hard. Again, get out of that comfort zone, because it's easy to do. You start making really good money, and it gets a little easy, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, but you have to sit back and reevaluate and go, wow, do I want to stay where I'm at, or do I want to grow this business even bigger? And I don't have plans to be, a Bill Gates or anything, but I do want to scale up from here and get out of this comfort zone, because I realized, really, it was earlier this year, I'm too comfortable right now. Making a good 6 figures every year. You got to push yourself out of that, because it's easy to get complacent, and when you do, somebody else is waiting to knock you off and take your business. So that's where we're headed for this year, the remainder of this year, and for 2018.
All right. Our guest today has been Guy Jimenez, and I'm just really taken with the idea that you're a man who has always had a sense of knowing what you need next and where you're going, and you've engineered your life and your training and your experience to get you to that next thing. I know you're going to be successful in this next venture as you expand. and because you've done what it takes to get to where you are. I admire that and respect that, and we can all learn from that. So thank you so much, Guy, for being on the show today, and I hope that we'll have you back soon, and we'll recap and maybe hear about what's next. Good deal?
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and if anybody needs to contact me for any reason, if they're doing any business in Texas, I'm typically pretty easy to get a hold of. They can just go to my website of buyingtexastoday.com, or they can find me on Facebook under facebook.com Guy Jimenez or facebook.com/Buying Texas Today, and they can reach me either way, and I'll be glad to visit with them.
Thanks, Guy. I appreciate you giving that information out. All right. And this is the show Flipping America, and we'll be right back.
This has been Flipping America, real estate investing for everyone.